I'm exhausted after watching that. No wonder I sleep well at night. Welcome to part 28 of me building a home for myself and my wife Brenda. I'm just about to clad the second wall in the bathroom, which is where we want to put a wall-to-wall vanity. And on the plans I've specified 1800, and we want an 1800 wide unit. We don't want any gaps at either end. So I thought, well, I'll just run the tape over and check it. And no one, including myself, has allowed for the thickness of the wall sheets on the frames. And when I checked with a tape measure, I am 5 mil short, if I clad this wall, of being able to fit a unit in here. So rather than go for a shorter unit, I found this out now. I'm going to make the space 1800. And to do that, I've got to move this back wall on the linen press 5 mils that way. I don't mind doing it. It'll take me about an hour, and at least I've found it now rather than trying to come along later when everything's finished and put in a vanity unit that wouldn't have fitted. Trying to unnail this frame, if I didn't have this reciprocating saw with a construction blade in it, which will do both timber and steel, would be a nightmare. But I can easily cut through the nails with this wonderful little tool. One of my viewers has asked, why don't you put the PVC channel in front of the wall sheets? Well, there's two reasons why you don't. The first one is, if you put it in front of the sheet, you get an uneven surface if you're not going to tile the wall and you're just going to paint it. And the second reason is because grout leaks water. People think that when they tile and then they put grout there, they've got a waterproof surface. They haven't. Water will go through grout onto the sheet, and the sheet can become damp and the water wick out down the back of the sheet. If you had the PVC channel in front of the sheet, that water would be outside the floor tray. With the channel behind the sheet, the water goes down the back of the sheet and comes back into the water tray. And you also quite commonly get water leaks here on your taps, right where the wall sheet is. And that water quite quite often goes down the back of the sheet rather than the front. And I've seen this happen in houses I've renovated where they haven't had this. The water's leaked out of here just with a washer that's worn, dripped down the back of the sheet, and then rotted out the wall stud on the other side. So that's why this goes on the back of the sheet. Got most of the sheeting, the Villaboard hard sheeting done in the bathroom. Ready for the vanity there. Of course, I moved that wall back not 5 mils but 15 mils to give myself a little bit of leeway. I haven't sheeted that wall yet because the plumbers have to move those taps down to about there so that they'll be below the bath, and we're also going to put in a low shower rose on a rod here, so I don't want to sheet that wall and get in his way, but I have started to sheet the alcove where the shampoo will fit. I nearly completely forgot I'd frame that in. I could easily put the sheet right over the top. But this room's pretty well as far as I can take it at the moment. If you're going to do any gyprocking, or as you Yanks call it, drywalling, or as the British call it, plasterboarding, regardless of what country you live in, here's a booklet you absolutely have to get your hands on. It's the Australian Gyprock Residential Installation Guide, and I've been really good to you guys. Here's the address where you can download the PDF file, regardless of where you are in the world. It's full of diagrams, of pictures and tables, and gives you absolutely every detail about the job that I'm doing that you need to know. So even an idiot like me can end up doing a professional job, hopefully. It specifies 3 levels of finish. Level 3, level 4, which is the standard level of drywall gyprock finishing in Australia, or level 5, where the whole of the sheet is covered with a finish coat, which is what the British seem to do as standard. Don't want to start an international controversy on this, but I think the reason why the British always put a finish coat over all their plasterboard is because, I'm not having a go at anyone, because I think the Australian gyprock panels have a higher level of surface finish. I bet I get some comments on that one. Anyway, what I'm about to do, according to this booklet, is I'm going to do a bit of back blocking. Let me show you what that involves. Where you have recessed joints like this, and they're called recessed because you've got a cutout in the sheet for putting your joining tape and your finishing plaster on. Where you have recessed sheet joints, either horizontally or vertically, you don't need to back block them. Even on level 5 finish, the thickness of the material that you put down that edge in that recess is strong enough, particularly with the reinforcing tape, to stop any cracks. But where you have one or both edges of the sheet without a recess, that's called a butt joint. And a butt joint for a level 4 and 5 finish needs to have back blocking. I'll show you what that is. It's basically putting a strip behind where the joins in your sheets are. Your studs in your walls have to be turned that way so that they don't touch the sheeting. Don't ask me why, but that's what the manufacturer says. So there's room to put a second piece across the back there and make that join stronger. Now sometimes you can do this like I am now by going around to the back of the sheet. In those cases where you can't, like where I'll be putting this in lining of the linen press in, what I'll do is I'll glue a piece in place there and then put the sheets up to it once that's hardened off. The beveled edge on hard sheeting like Villaboard is pretty obvious. When you first look at plasterboard, it looks like it's flat all the way across, but when you put a straight edge on it, you can see that's not the case. The manufacturer puts a slight bevel in there on the surface, and that is specifically made so that you can put your plaster jointing and your tape in there and then build it up with plaster and still get a perfectly flat surface. So the only time you don't have a beveled edge on a plasterboard sheet is when you cut it or where it's going across the other side of the sheet. But on the long run, you've got that beveled edge and you don't need the back block. Handling plasterboard sheets on your own is not that difficult when you're just putting in the bottom sheet on the wall. But once they get past about 2 metres, they get a bit heavy to lift on your own. And you need some way of something to rest them on as you raise them up and sit them on. And at first, I started out using nails. So I'd lift the sheet up and drop the top sheet down, rest it on the nail, and then screw it onto the wall. And this had a few problems. What I found was that when you rested the sheet on the nail, the weight of the sheet would cut its own hole. And that caused two problems. Obviously it made a daggy hole like that, but the other thing it did was it allowed the sheet to drop below the edge of the lower sheet, and so you ended up in this struggle trying to lift it up, so the nails just weren't doing the job and were making problems. So if you get the idea of the nail to hold the top sheet, what I've come up with now is I just screw a piece of 2x1 scrap timber onto the wall studs, positioning the edge of it just a smidgen above the top edge of the sheet. And that allows me to rest the sheet, slide the sheet up the wall, rest it on there, push it in sideways, and then it drops down just that tiny little bit onto the top of the other sheet. I'm finding that that is working really well and being a great help in being able to put these sheets on my own. You professional gyp rockers will be laughing your heads off at this, but this is something I've found that you need and as a help when you're doing this job on your own.